On How I Met Your Mother, the two friends who appear to be the least close are Marshall and Robin. And when we look at the duration of the entire show and how much Marshall and Robin have hung out together, we only really get a few scenes. So what I really want to explore is the nature of their relationship. Are they really best friends, or are they friends by circumstance? Are they like Phoebe and Ross from Friends?
Well, since we're becoming friends, like Ross and Phoebe.
Weird combo to pick, but okay.
If we look at the beginning, we know that Robin is the newest member of the group, and Robin kind of slowly bonds with everybody throughout the first season. So she really gets to know Ted in the pilot episode wherein she and Ted go on a date. Then 2 episodes later in The Sweet Taste of Liberty, in episode 3, Robin and Lily really get to hang out, and that's where they become friends. And then in episode 14, Zip Zip Zip, Barney and Robin have their own hangout session where they spend a lot of time together and get to know each other, and we could see how they work together as friends. And the first time that we see Marshall and Robin hang out happens in season 2, episode 1. But it's only a very short scene. It's where Robin takes him shooting, and we really don't get to see them interacting that much as friends. The first time that we truly get to see Robin and Marshall together as friends hanging out happens in season 4. So what I want to do is take a close look at their friendship and analyze all the different aspects of their relationship and why it works and in ways that it doesn't work. So one aspect of their relationship is the fact that they are different people and they don't see eye to eye in everything because they have different value systems. And one point of contention that does come up throughout the show is the fact that Marshall is a believer and Robin is not a believer. So in other words, Marshall believes in magic, he believes in miracles, he believes in the Yeti, mermaids, everything mythical and mystical, and any possible conspiracy theory. Marshall has an open mind for it. Robin, not so much. We see this come up for the first time when Marshall and Lily discover the caca mouse, and they're trying to convince everybody that it's at their apartment, and Robin is just shutting it down, saying it's impossible. She becomes a convert, of course, when she does see the caca mouse herself. A few seasons later, we see this argument come up again when Robin is convinced that miracles don't exist, and Marshall keeps trying to prove to her that they are real and that they exist. Another point of contention between them is their view of romantic relationships. Marshall has a very long-term loving girlfriend and he's very loyal to her, and he believes in love and having traditions and having commitments and being with one person and having sex means something. And for Robin, it's a little bit different. She believes in casual dating, she is focused on her career, she doesn't prioritize relationships. And so we do see this come out in their dynamic. In season 4, Marshall slut shames Robin when she sleeps with Mitch when he does the naked man, and she is upset at the fact that Marshall called her that. She's also trying to prove Marshall wrong, that she wasn't just trying to sleep with him. And so we see that there's a bit of a disagreement in the way that they view romantic relationships and sex. By the end of the episode, Marshall does come around and he acknowledges the fact that he was wrong, but they still have a difference in how they perceive relationships as a whole. In season 4, we also see a point where Robin is driving Marshall to the airport because Marshall and Lily have this tradition where Marshall picks her up and Lily always has a case of beer from the country that she was visiting. And they like to keep up with these little traditions. And Marshall then tells Robin about all the cute little traditions that they always have, such as telling each other what they have for lunch every single day and talking to each other every single day. And Robin just finds all these things ridiculous and stupid and just two adults trying to play pretend and play house. And Marshall gets upset by that because he says that she has never been in a relationship long enough to develop these traditions, and that she is emotionless and that she's a robot and she doesn't understand love. So it is pretty clear that Robin and Marshall have these different perceptions, but at the very end, they do come together and with a mutual understanding that even if they have different perceptions of love, one is not technically more correct than the other, and people can love in different ways. Some people need these little traditions and other people don't, and it still works depending on who you're with. Yet another major difference that comes out in their disputes is niceness, specifically Marshall's niceness. Robin likes to tease Marshall about the fact that he's super nice, that he helps everybody out. She criticizes him for it. And we also see this when Robin calls Marshall when he's in Minnesota, and he acts very polite when he's answering the phone. She makes fun of him for it.
Oh, that is too cute. Say it again.
No, it's called manners, jerk.
She also makes fun of him when he can't help but answer an unknown number and she yells at him.
Oh, it's separated
you can
us
do
from
this,
those
Marshall.
elbows
You can
on
do
the
this.
table,
I believe in you.
Wisconsin.
Don't
I'm
do
sorry,
it,
Robin.
Marshall.
So we do see this other element of the differences in their personality. The fact that Robin is a little bit rough around the edges and Marshall is just extremely nice. And Marshall's not the type to yell, whereas Robin is more prone to getting aggressive, freaking out, not being as nice to other people. But apart from that, we do see other little teasing disputes that come up between them. For example, Robin makes fun of Marshall for his barrel. Robin makes fun of Marshall for the fact that he likes to read a magazine at home and not at work. Then, of course, we have the whole rabbit and duck debacle, which gets very heated and very aggressive.
Stuffed with duck feathers. Who's cozier? No. Who's cozier?
And we have a major fight that happens between them when Robin steals Marshall's Minnesota tidal wave. So Robin steals Marshall's drink, in essence. She starts ordering Marshall's drink, which then leads the bar to name a drink after her, the Scherbatsky. Even though this was originally Marshall's, they get into a giant debate. There's a dance-off. It's a fun moment in time in the show where we get to see them go off against each other. Apart from their disputes, we also have a lot of moments of bonding or moments where they hold each other up. Specifically, there are quite a few moments where Marshall is just a cheerleader for Robin's love life. We see this even in the first season. So Marshall, of course, is Ted's best friend, and so he does root for Ted and Robin when Ted is going after Robin. But apart from that, when Robin starts dating someone new, Marshall again takes on this kind of dad-like role in asking questions, the same way that he does with Ted.
So why haven't we met him?
We're not really ready to go public yet.
And there's also a moment where Robin is single and she says that she wants a dog, but Marshall points out that that's not what she's looking for. She's actually looking for love and she's trying to use a dog to fill that hole in her heart. And the biggest moment of support that we see from Marshall is when Dawn enters the picture. So in the beginning, Marshall tells Robin that she's going to find the love of her life, that he's coming, the next person that she dates. And he's very excited for her. He keeps teasing her about it. And then when she meets Dawn, he really wants her to start dating Dawn. And he's very excited for the aspect. In fact, he's the most excited out of all the members of the group. So he's the one who keeps encouraging her. And he keeps telling her how great Dawn is, how cute he is. And when Dawn calls to ask Robin out, it's Marshall who picks up the phone and accepts the date on her behalf. We also see how upset Marshall is when he finds out that Robin was going through her mourning period. He is broken up about it. He's upset that he didn't notice. He's upset that Ted didn't notice, that Barney didn't notice. And he seems to be more upset than the rest of the group. And when it comes to Robin's personal life, Marshall also keeps it honest. So when Ted tells Robin that he loves her, Marshall does the right thing by telling Robin that she should move out. When it comes to Robin and Marshall, we also get to see that they have a lot of comfort with each other. There's a lot of camaraderie. Whether they like it or not, Lily shares a lot of personal information about them.
You and the guy from the mayor's office did it in the UN building under the desk of the ambassador from Zaire? Nice.
And we also see that they deeply care for each other. In season 2, when Lily runs off to San Francisco, the first time that we do see Robin and Marshall bonding is when she takes him shooting. And they have a very relaxed nature when they're together, and they end up having a lot of fun. And then when Robin is moving to Japan, she says that a friend called her crying and wouldn't hang up the phone, and that friend was Marshall. And then when she comes back from Japan, Robin moves in with Marshall and Lily, and she sleeps on their couch for a while before she is offloaded to Ted. And the biggest bonding moment that we get between Marshall and Robin happens in season 4, episode 11. And this is where Robin gets homesick. The holidays are coming up and she's very sad that she's not in Canada. We see that Marshall and Robin are on the same page when it comes to the weather.
I'm Canadian. I don't need a coat. This kind of weather is nothing for me.
Yeah, this is like a spring day back in Minnesota.
Marshall notices how homesick Robin is feeling, and so he's very kind. He surprises her by taking her to the Walleye Saloon, which is a Minnesota bar, and he figured that she might feel more at home there. And she does fit right in. She loves the bar, and she feels like it's her environment, where the men are very manly and the sliders are giant. And we get to see that there, Marshall and Robin have quite a few other things in common. I mean, they both come from a different type of environment where everyone is much friendlier. They both played Fisherman's Quest. They both played sports. So they have a bit of a similar background that the others don't share. But then things go sour when Robin slowly starts to take over the bar. So she tells Marshall's story about the Vikings game where his father shed a tear. She takes over that story for him, and then she gets a really high score in Fisherman's Quest. Marshall gets extremely upset by this and he betrays her. So he tells everyone that she's Canadian and she is kicked out of the bar. While that was really harsh on Marshall's part, I could see why he's upset. I mean, she just flat out took his childhood story from him, which is similar to what she did with the Minnesota tidal wave. And so we do see this repeated again here, and this may be an element of their relationship where Robin has no trouble taking from him and Marshall's just too nice. But this case is a little bit different because Robin wasn't trying to be mean intentionally or trying to sabotage Marshall intentionally. She just wanted to feel included. And we get a really cute scene and a very sweet bonding moment where Marshall and Robin are both in their t-shirts, eating cold beverages and eating ice cream, even though it's winter. And Marshall tells her that they love her in New York. They would be upset if she ever left. And he also found a Canada-based bar for her, the Hoser Hut. So he takes her there, which is incredibly sweet. And as revenge, he sings "Let's Go to the Mall," which I think is excellent as revenge. Apart from that, we do see a few moments where Marshall and Robin talk to each other and give each other advice. Usually it pertains to Lily. So one example is when Marshall and Lily move into their new apartment and Marshall notices that the apartment is crooked and Robin notices this as well. And she tries to cover for Marshall. She tries to console him and tell him that he should tell Lily. And then she ends up breaking the secret for him for their own good. Robin also talks to Marshall about his leather cuff and how Lily likes it. And Marshall talks to Robin about her engagement ring and how it makes her invisible. Robin also advises Marshall when Lily has pregnancy brain and she's not thinking clearly. And Robin tells Marshall that he should not be making decisions right now and she should not be making decisions right now. So Robin is there to guide them and to give advice as a true friend. Robin is also the first person to call Marshall in Minnesota when there's drama happening between Zoe and Ted. So she's the one who calls Marshall to give him the tea on what's going on. We also see Robin being very supportive at Marshall's father's funeral, so Marvin's funeral. She's the vice girl and she gives Marshall everything that he possibly needs on that day. So she's there to provide support in any way that she can. When Marshall and Lily are moving to Long Island, we see that Robin gets incredibly upset. When she comes to visit them, she locks herself in their bathroom because she doesn't want them to leave. And it's Marshall who comes out to talk to her and to check in on her to see if she's going to come out. And then when they officially decide to move out and move to Long Island, she is incredibly upset. And then she comes to stay with them. So after Robin moves out of Ted's apartment, she stays with Marshall and Lily at the house and they don't want her to leave. So this is the second time that she stays over, but unlike the first time, this time they want her to stay there because it's a little piece of New York for them. One aspect that I think is interesting about their dynamic is that Marshall is the only one in the group that is not pursuing Robin or who's not attracted to Robin. So as we know, Barney and Ted have both dated Robin and there are numerous occasions where Lily hits on Robin, but Marshall is not in that game. But there is one episode that specifically talks about their relationship and the potential for attraction in their relationship. And that episode is season 6, episode 11, The Mermaid Theory. In this episode, Lily tells Ted that he cannot hang out with Zoe, who's a married woman, unless he follows certain rules, and that it's challenging being in a friendship with a single person when you're in a relationship. Robin says that there's only one exception, and that's when you're old friends like her and Marshall, and that's where Lily points out the fact that Marshall and Robin never really hang out, and Marshall agrees. He's like, yeah, you know what, you're right, we never really hang out. And this is something that I think some fans feel is an inconsistency, the fact that they're saying, oh, Robin and Marshall never hang out alone together. And I feel like this line could be read in multiple ways. One interpretation is very literal, so that when Marshall says they never really hung out alone together, that it means never. But the other interpretation, and the way that I see it, is that when you're kind of saying, oh, I never hang out with you, it doesn't mean that you've never hung out together, but that it's just so infrequent that it doesn't even count. And technically, I would say that he's right and Lily's right. I mean, yes, we have the time that Robin took Marshall shooting. We have the time that Marshall took Robin to the Minnesota bar and they really hang out and bonded. And there's the other occasion when Robin drives Marshall to the airport. First, she asked him over to look at the radiator, and then Marshall asked her for a favor, which is not really a hangout session. It's more like one friend is trying to help out another friend. But practically speaking, there are only 3 occasions where they were alone together, and 6 years have already gone by. So I see this line as really saying that they never really hang out alone together that much, so it doesn't really count. So then Marshall and Robin decide to go on a friend date to show that they are close and that they do hang out together. And this is where things get really awkward. Ted says that there's only 3 things that they talk about: sports, cold weather, and cold weather sports, and then they run out of ideas and it's just boring and silent and awkward. And Robin is confused as to why this is happening, and Marshall explains that it's because of the mermaid theory that was proposed by Barney. And according to Barney,
you see, every woman, no matter how initially repugnant, has a mermaid clock, the time it takes for you to realize you want to bone her.
And Marshall discovered this for himself when he said that 2 years ago, he hired an assistant, and then a year, 3 months, and 16 days went by, and all of a sudden she turned into a mermaid. So this is where I think the episode is kind of interesting for me, because on the one hand, it almost feels like the show is erasing all the connection and bonding that Marshall and Robin have had over the years. I mean, we've seen them hang out, and especially in the episode where he takes her to his bar and then takes her to a Canada bar, we see how comfortable they are with each other. We know that Robin moved in with Marshall and Lily when she didn't have a place to stay. We've seen them really talk about different issues, and so this episode kind of brings in awkwardness that we haven't seen before. And I could see on one hand some people feeling like it does erase the bonding and the experiences that they've had, but on the other hand, this is a very specific circumstance where it's very awkward for specific reasons. For one, they are going out to dinner and they're just talking to each other, and they know the purpose is for them to connect after finding out that they don't really hang out together. So there's an added level of pressure for them to make it not awkward, which makes it awkward. Another element is the fact that we've mostly seen them bond over activities like going shooting or like going to a Minnesota bar where there's different things that you could do, like play Fisherman's Quest. And perhaps they're the type who need to be doing activities to bond as friends. And I think the biggest issue is the fact that Marshall had became aware of the mermaid theory. And if he said that he hired the assistant 2 years ago and he came to this realization 1 year and 3 months later, it means it's been about 9 months since he's been aware of it. So at least for 9 months, he's probably kept his distance. And as we know, Marshall can ruminate and make things worse in his mind.
You have a small penis. Oh, that's super interesting. But you have a small penis. Damn it, Marshall! Okay, think of any 2 words other than small or penis.
So we could see in this particular circumstance when he's out with Robin, the same thing, where now the mermaid theory is in his mind, and that's kind of impacting how he's interacting with her. At the end of their hangout, they decide to get super drunk, which really eases the situation, and they end up having a lot of fun. But slowly but surely, Robin starts to turn into a mermaid until she throws up and she turns back into a manatee. Personally, I feel like there should be an extension to this theory that possibly after being a mermaid, perhaps a friend could turn into something like a dolphin, where they're still cute and you still love them, but because you know all their flaws and how strange they are and how much you disagree with them on different things, that they're never going to be a mermaid, but you're always going to find them adorable and you're always going to love them after a very long period of time. So I like to think that there's not just a manatee and a mermaid, but perhaps there is a dolphin in there somewhere. The thing that I think is interesting about their dynamic and the possibility of attraction is that it almost feels like there's an inside joke that Marshall is definitely not attracted to Robin, and it's stated flat out. So again, he's the only one in the group who's not attracted to Robin, and he makes it clear.
Okay, well, first of all,
And Barney notes that out of everybody that he knows, he believes that Marshall and Robin are the only 2 people who are truly platonic, that even if they were forced to kiss in 20 minutes, they would not do it. But what I think is interesting is that when it comes to physical attraction, we do see that element touched upon more between Marshall and Robin than, let's say, Lily and Ted, where between Lily and Ted, there's zero discussion of attraction towards each other. There is one episode where Ted falsely believes that he hooked up with Lily in college, which then turns out to be not true, but that's the only time. But when it comes to Marshall and Robin, it's almost sometimes an inside joke that he thinks that Robin is into him and he's not.
Marshall, close your eyes.
I don't know how you heard any of that as me hitting on you, but
Just do it. I don't want to sleep with Marshall.
I've seen the looks.
So we do see moments where Robin shows a bit of attraction to Marshall. It's never taken seriously.
Marshall looks good. Has he lost weight? Bitch, don't even. Marshall Eriksen, manipulating an officer of the law with your sausage. That is very hot.
And we also see the reverse. It's very rare, and it's not really necessarily attraction to Robin, but there are 2 moments where Marshall notices Robin as well.
Marshall!
You just checked out Robin's ass. What?
So I would say that Marshall and Robin have a truly platonic friendship, and these little moments don't really count. I would say that they have more moments of physical attraction and discussion of physical attraction between each other than compared to Lily and Ted. So they are truly platonic. And I feel like even though they're the furthest in the group, the chemistry between them is very strong. And I would say it's probably the actors. It's Jason and Colby that work really well together. And the few times that we do see them hang out, it does show that they're very comfortable and they work really well as friends. So to me, it feels like even though they're forced together by circumstance, they have enough together to work as a friendship. And if I were to compare them to, let's say, Phoebe and Ross, I would say that Marshall and Robin have a lot more potential as friends and a lot more closeness, because I could see them being just friends in a parallel universe where Lily, Ted, and Barney are not around, but I cannot see that necessarily in some other friendships in some other shows. So it's a not close friendship, but they have bonded really close together over circumstances. And I feel like by the end, we could see how they have evolved as friends, even though we don't have that many moments together on screen. So that's my take. I would love to know what you guys think. And if I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. Thank you.
You really were a virgin before you met Lily, weren't you?
Well, that's unnecessary.